Lord Moylan.
My Lords, I have a few slightly disconnected remarks to make that fit in well here, and it's a delight and a pleasure to follow my noble friend Lady Mackintosh of Pickering and support her in this course of inquiry. The first is, noble Lords might be under the impression from references made earlier in the debate and at second reading that we are under the cosh of the Conservative Party manifesto in 2019. Now, my recollection of that manifesto is compendious, but in case noble Lords didn't believe that, I have looked it up in the course of the afternoon, and all it says on this is, we will bring in new laws on animal sentience. Very fine pledge, but nothing at all committing us to a committee, or indeed laws that didn't actually just abolish animal sentience. So we're under no sort of obligation from as far as the manifesto is concerned to take any particular measure in this bill and take it forward. We just have to pass some legislation. The second thing, slightly, as I say, disconnected points. The second thing is that I've heard ministers say, though not my noble friend, but other ministers involved in this, that this committee is going to roam across Whitehall, holding governments to account. Now, I think there is a real constitutional question here, because although I'm very new in this House, I was brought up to believe that it was Parliament's job to hold governments to account. And I differ, therefore. I have every sympathy with my noble friend, Lord Hannon of Kingsclere. I take a slightly different take on this topic here. It's not that I'm worried that this committee is going to go off making decisions which the government has delegated to it, but I'm really dispirited that it is going to go off holding government to account on the basis of something that we have effectively delegated to it as a parliamentary, as a parliament. The right role, the right location, the proper place for this committee, if it is to exist at all, is not as a statutory body holding government to account. This committee should be a creation of Parliament reporting to us and giving us expert advice on how we should be doing our job, holding the government to account. And I very much hope that my noble friend will take that on board and pursue it, because it certainly would allow us to get rid of Clause 1 very easily and put in place something which was much more constitutionally reputable. I now want to come to a third slightly disconnected point, and it will be my last, more or less, which is that the Minister has correctly stated the position, and no doubt I can hear him already preparing to state it correctly again a number of times before we rise this evening, that this committee, of course, will not make or change any laws, and that is entirely for ministers and Parliament, and therefore we need have no fear, because ministers will always have the final decision, or at least Parliament, or some combination of the two, will have the final decision on what it is, and they can be trusted to hold everything in balance. But of course, although that is the correct constitutional position, I suspect my noble friend the Minister knows and is perfectly aware that that is not the point of this bill at all. The noble lady Baroness Jones of Moulscombe, who is a seasoned campaigner and activist, does not support this bill because she thinks it is going to allow the committee to make laws that we're all going to live under. She's perfectly well aware that this bill in itself does nothing for animal welfare. She wants it because she wants to see a group of like-minded people, I'm not saying violent activists, but just like-minded people installed at the heart of Whitehall, going round, summoning ministers and holding them to account. And what she wants to do is, I think it's called the Overton window. She wants to shift the Overton window so that we all have to discuss animal welfare the whole time, and it becomes impermissible not to discuss it every time a bill comes up. So really, if my noble friend does not understand that that is what is driving concerns, not that we're worried that the committee itself is going to go and make laws and impose decisions on us. We're perfectly well aware that it won't have the power to do that. But that ministers themselves will find themselves constantly on the back foot on topics like this, constantly giving ground, constantly accepting an agenda that is still a relatively narrow agenda. That is what we are worried about. I don't believe that my noble friend, sadly I don't believe this, and I listened with great attention in the course of this afternoon, but I don't believe he has so far, either today or at second reading, made the case as to why this committee, which is there to advise him and other ministers, why this committee needs to be on a statutory footing at all. And therefore I am very, very comfortable in supporting my noble friend, Lady Mackintosh, in suggesting this clause be removed